Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because, wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack. Literally get away from me, crazy lady.
What fresh hell.
Laughing in the face of motherhood.
I can still smell her perfume.
With Margaret Abels
and Amy Wilson.
Chances are I need a snack or a nap.
A podcast that solves today's parenting dilemmas
so you don't have to.
I think it would be great if we just had daily catch-ups. Hello, everybody. Welcome to What Fresh Hell, Laughing in the Face of Motherhood. This is Amy.
And this is Margaret. And today we're going to talk about why kids act differently at school than at home.
I mean, why shouldn't they? Grown-ups can act differently at work than they do at home. Speaking as one.
You're jumping to our first line of topic. Love to see it. So yeah, people act differently in different locations, right? You act differently at happy hour with your friends than you act at church. You act differently with your aging grandmother than you act with your bestie. So it's not unusual for kids to behave differently in different settings. You know, you'd expect them to act one way at a friend's birthday party and another at their grandparents' house.
Mm-hmm. Let's hope so.
Right? Yes. Sometimes
it's the same great, sometimes it's the same not great, but
sometimes not so much. So this is from Why Kids Are Different at Home and at School by Beth Arkey for Child Mind. She talks about, which I think we know from our own kids, that this ability to adapt to different environments, right, is a developing skill. A 2-year-old can't really do this. A 2-year-old is just a terror of noise and debris wherever they go. They don't act differently at church than they act at the playground.
I have a nephew who is between 1.5 and 2. And that, it makes me think of, I never thought about this, but he is the same everywhere, which is completely well behaved as long as I can be constantly moving around. So if it's a bridal shower or somebody's house, as long as he can constantly be moving from room to room, picking up things, putting them down, and you don't bother him in that need to move, he is fine. But you can't have expectations of that kid to behave differently. They don't understand that that's an expectation in the first place until 2 or 3, I guess.
This is the 2-year-old on a plane dilemma, right? Like they are ready to be at the playground and they don't realize they're now in a contained tube in the sky.
I want to get down.
They want to go play. They're like, hey, man, this looks cool. I want to jump on my, tray and pull the hair of the lady in front of me because I don't understand that I don't act the same way at the playground as on an airplane.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So when we have a developing skill like this, that involves adapting and behaving differently in different environments. This is a skill that children develop at different times.
It seems to me that this would involve having theory of mind.
Right.
Like so much comes back to that. Theory of mind is this understanding that a baby or a toddler has to develop by the time they're about 3, that other people have different feelings than them, that you can be happy, but somebody else is sad that you took their truck. Like that, they don't get that until a certain developmental stage. So therefore, if you're the 2-year-old on the plane who just wants to get down and run around, you don't understand that other people don't want you to do that because that hasn't occurred to you yet that other people are different.
No, I'm swinging from the lady's hair in front of me and I'm living my best life. And I'm not clocking that she's crying and giving me a death stare, right? Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's not that you don't care. It's that you don't know that other people have different feelings. Okay. So theory of mind has to probably be in place for them to have any sense of what I should be doing right now.
Right. And so like any developing skill that kids come to at different times, you're going to see a range with kids about their ability to be adaptive to different environments. And we know that kids on the spectrum or kids with other diagnoses are probably going to be on the trailing end of that development. So it's going to take a kid with developmental issues longer to figure out this is a different environment. And they may feel that as anxiety first, but not necessarily be able to adapt their behavior correctly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So they're going to feel this feeling of I'm doing something wrong and I can tell that people are mad, or I feel really uncomfortable and anxious, but I do not yet have the skills to adapt for this changing environment.
And then there's I'm sure we'll talk about this, the after school restraint collapse idea that your kid can hold it together in pre-K until 2:45 and then gets in the minivan and just has a whole meltdown because they were trying to hold it together at school. And that's actually a good sign. It's my understanding that that's a good sign of a kid getting the different behaviors and being able to hold it together, even if then they're a nightmare at home when they first get home. That just means they're developing this skill.
Yeah. And let's go back to our kid on the plane, right? Now we have a 4-year-old on the plane who has some understanding of you have to sit still for 3 hours to get to grandma's house. You did a great job sitting still, but what are they looking like at baggage claim, right? That kid is running around, they're going crazy, possibly tackling other travelers, possibly trying to ride on the luggage conveyor because they are restrained and then they're let loose. So you see this, like defining those two modes can be really helpful in understanding your kid's behavior.
Yes.
I'm seeing the restraint, and then after church, we go get donuts and you can run around as much as you want. And so we understand that there is a cost to kids to being restrained for a certain period of time.
Right. And you can do it the easy way or the hard way, but we used to say when our 2 boys were little, my husband used to say that they were like big dogs and you just had to run them. You had to take them to the park and run them at some point during the day if you didn't want the dogs chewing the furniture, right? You had to get that out, and you can get that out before church or after church or whatever. But if you don't, then it's going to come out in a way that might not be so good.
So going back to child mind, let's talk through what the environments are like at school and at home. But before we do that, let me pause and talk a little bit about the topic more generally.
Okay.
People, I know I have had this experience that you have a kid who feels very out of control at home. And then you're like, well, what about now I'm not talking about my own kids, but like, what about the hitting? What about the biting? What about the running around? What about the throwing things? And then you go to your school meeting and the school is like, he's an angel here all day. I don't know what you're talking about. And that can feel extremely frustrating because it feels like I'm doing something wrong that the school is magically doing right. So the kid is good at school and bad, I'm using air quotes, at home.
We had a guest a couple years ago. We'll link to the interview, Ryan Wexelblatt, the ADHD dude. He coaches parents of kids with ADHD and kids with ADHD themselves. Anyway, I remember him saying that frustration is often present for parents of kids with ADHD, but it is in fact a good thing that the alternative of your kid behaves the same at home and at school and is biting and hitting and can't follow directions is less welcome news than, well, they don't do it at school. If they don't do it at school, there's a chance that there's growth to happen in a different way than if they're the same misbehaving everywhere. It's kind of good news.
Yeah, you said this earlier on that like a kid who has restraint collapse is restrained at school, which is actually a good thing in a lot of ways. School is an environment where you have to be restrained. Yes. Yeah. School offers structure, which can make kids feel secure. It's socialization, which can feed kids, and it can also be very socially draining, right? I have a kid now who's constantly talking about their social battery, which is a term that has apparently...
Is that the TikTok word for it?
I was about to say, become very popular on TikTok, but it is kind of a useful phrase, right? Yeah. My social battery is depleted. We've all had that feeling of having a day where you had to go and talk to 6 people and you got your hair done. You had to talk to the people there and then you had to go to a meeting. And by the time you get home, you've had that like nobody talked to me feeling. My social battery is at 0. Then on the more extreme sides, you can see cases of, in this article from Childmind, they profile a young girl who has selective mutism. So they don't speak at certain times. And their selective mutism is at school, and then they're very chatty at home.
Right.
So sometimes these differences between home and school can be very marked.
Right. Well, that's an example because we've been talking so far about they're fine at school and then they come home and they're rough at home. This is just the opposite. This is a kid who's not functioning well at school, but has that skill clearly because they can use it in a developmentally appropriate way at home to speak, but just not in certain situations.
My sister-in-law, who we've had on the podcast, Christy Martin, she talked to me about, which had never occurred to me, that school is an environment that is not replicated anywhere else in our lives, which is that every 45 minutes, you're expected to go deep into one activity, English. And then as you start to be like, oh, I am enjoying this book. Oh, this is a good conversation about the Lord of the Flies. Brrr, the bell rings. And it's like, forget that. Now it's art. And you're like, okay, art. All right. Now let me go get my crayons. Okay. Now I'm drawing. Brrr, stop that. Math time. You know, that this idea that school happens in 45-minute increments. It involves a ton of transitions, which especially kids on the spectrum, but lots of kids struggle with transitions. And that constant, I mean, imagine living your life, Amy, with a bell that went off every 45 minutes and just was like, now you go somewhere else. No matter whether or not you're enjoying the thing you're doing, whether you're into the thing you're doing, bored with the thing you're doing, here comes the bell.
And I would argue some of the things you really enjoy doing, like for me, like, it's time for physics. It's time for gym. Those were the things I really didn't like, but I had to do. Somebody else was like, I got to go do art now. I hate art, but you have to do it.
Yeah.
And as you say, you're supposed to become, I never really thought about this, the idea that you have to become immediately absorbed in calculus or something when you just like 10 minutes ago were talking about Lord of the Flies. And in the 3 minutes in between class, then you have social stuff. Your social battery has been affected in some way by what happened on the walk to math class. And now math.
So sometimes that structure is really good for kids. And sometimes that structure is really hard for kids. Sometimes that socialization is really good for kids. I have kids for whom the chattery socialization feeds them. And I have kids for whom the like, I'm holding a tray and trying to figure out who I can sit with is extremely draining. It's constants and variables. School, we could talk forever about should school be structured differently. And there are certainly schools that are structured differently, that you don't have this bell system where you see a different teacher every 45 minutes, or even in the lower grades, like you sit at your desk until it's time for gym. School is basically a constant for most of us. You know, we're not going to redo how our schools are structured. So I think the work is saying, where is this playing into my kids' strengths? And where is this playing into my kids' weaknesses? Or where is this draining my kid? And where is this energizing my kid?
Right. I mean, you can change your school situation. We certainly have listeners who have chosen to homeschool or unschool, or you can change schools, you can fix it. But I guess I would say first make sure there's something to fix. Like it's completely developmentally appropriate for anybody to behave differently in one environment than another.
Yeah. And I think that that's right. I'm taking this conversation with the school as sort of a constant. So like if it's really not working for your kid, there are kids who cannot do traditional schooling in elementary, middle, or high school. It doesn't work for them. In college now, you're seeing a lot of colleges moving towards, hey, we do, quarter systems where you only study one thing per quarter, whatever, different structures. But I'm approaching this particular conversation. If you got to move schools, you'll figure it out that it's not working for you. This is how we're operating within the confines of where we currently are planted.
Right. Okay.
So let's take a break and we're going to come back and talk about what's going on at home.
Hellions, it's time for some spring cleaning, and I don't just mean the coat closets. Doing your financial spring cleaning can actually be super easy when you let Monarch do your financial spring cleaning for you. One dashboard that gets your entire financial life organized. No more clutter, no more mess, no more logins scattered everywhere, just accounts, investments, property, and more, all in one place. Get your first year of Monarch for half off, just $50 with promo code FRESH. Monarch allows you to look not only at what you've already spent, but also to plan for the future. With Monarch, you can set savings goals, plan for big purchases, and notice spending trends before they become a problem. I can generate cash flow reports that show me what we spent this quarter, this month, what we're probably going to spend next month, and feel prepared, organized, and knowing how to plan for the future. No more surprises and a lot more clarity. Try Monarch. Use code FRESH at monarch.com to get your first year half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code FRESH.
Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, and it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women, tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING. My favorite skincare products actually feel more like self-care, like they're so nice to put on and they smell so good that I'm actually happy when I get to that part of my day. And I swear that is how I feel about Osea's anti-aging body balm.
Amy, you are usually the lotions and potions queen on this podcast, but I have to say, hard agree.
Osea's anti-aging body balm is a liquid silk body balm that combines the lasting hydration of a lotion with the firming power of a serum, leaving skin smoother and firmer.
This body balm is clinically tested and designed to deliver visible results you can see and feel.
So we've gotten to use this product for a couple of months now, and I swear I have really noticed firmer and smoother skin, like on the back of my hands. It's like getting a mini spa treatment from head to toe.
Get a spring-worthy glow with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners.
Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code FRESH at OseaMalibu.com.
That's 10% off your first order with code FRESH at OSEAMalibu.com. So the biggest thing about home is that it's a safe place for kids. It's taking the mask off, right? It is letting it all hang out. There is an element that I think we all remember of going to school and putting on the I'm the happiest, most normal, most fittingest, innest kid you've ever met in your life, right?
Or at least like, I don't care that you're bullying me and bothering me on the bus. It doesn't bother me, right?
Right. That most kids in school are putting on some form of armor or mask to just exist in that environment.
No matter how cool you are. P.S.
It doesn't matter. And they're not doing it for bad reasons. And they're not doing it because they're crazy kids. They're doing it because that is just how you operate in a room full of 1,000 other kids. Like everybody does.
Right.
I was recently looking at a senior care facility. You know, they're like, it's bingo and it's this. And then we have a movie and then it's mealtime. It is a little bit like, oh, this is a lot. Living with 1,000 people and going to different activities with people you may or may not have chosen to like, you know, that environment, again, it's just so far from the way we live. Being in a building with 1,000 and sometimes more than 1,000 other humans all day is exhausting. And so home becomes a safe space. Mm-hmm. As you say, sometimes this leads to they're saving all their love for you, which means they're coming home and kind of vomiting all of that stress and anxiety and difficulty upon you when they come home.
I'm reading Demon Copperhead right now, which is a great book. This is why my head's going there probably. Demon Copperhead won the Pulitzer in 2022, and it tells the story of a boy. It's David Copperfield told from the vantage point of modern day Appalachia. Lots of poverty and addiction and all the things that go with it, and this young boy, Demon Copperhead, going through it. Anyway, it occurs to me, and I think this applies to almost nobody listening to this episode, but there are kids for whom the home environment is less safe than school, and so they're going to be behaving differently too. But they're probably not listening to this episode. It would be nice if they did, but those people probably are not.
Yeah, and I think that is where kids who thrive on structure, who come home to a very unstructured home, it's just information gathering, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, could it be that I need to pull out my whiteboard and have it say, at 3 p.m., we get home and you have an hour to do whatever you want. Screens, run around outside. Nobody's going to talk to you for that hour. Then at 4, we're going to review what's in your backpack and see if there's homework and make a plan for that. Then at 5, we're going to start on homework. Then at 6, we're going to have dinner. Then at 7 is free time again. I mean, I had this on a whiteboard in my house for years. I don't do it anymore. My kids are now high school and middle school, but I needed that for years. And one of the things that parents of autistic kids will know about is a visual calendar or a visual schedule. And it's something that I think is useful for all kids. Visual is pictures for kids who may not be reading yet. And that's 4:00. And it's a picture of a kid playing on a video game. You can get these through an app. You can download the pictures from online, or you can just make them yourself. 4:00, video games. 5:00, look at homework, whatever it is, so that kids just know. And if you go into a special ed classroom, you will see almost every child has a schedule on their desk, because that thing of, I don't want the bell ringing, that's very anxiety producing. And the idea of, I don't know what comes next. And this whole day is just waiting for that bell to ring and then being dragged somewhere else I don't want to go. Sometimes really leaning into the feeling of schedule can be really helpful for kids if they struggle with this.
Right. Like a Montessori preschool might not be right for every kid either, where you just sort of do what you want to do until you don't want to do it anymore. If your kid needs more structure, then that's not the right environment for them, or maybe it is. But these are things you can dial up and down. I hadn't really thought about it before.
And here we come to your post-school restraint collapse, which is coming home from school. I know I lived in a very kind of traditional home growing up, and my dad would come home on the train from New York City, and he would walk in and he would change from his suit into like another kind of fancy outfit. It was like slacks, a button-down shirt, and a sweater,
It's giving Mr. Rogers.
It's very, or Mad Men, it was very much, there was no like, I'm going to just put on t-shirt and jeans. That didn't exist. But that process, I once heard an author speak. I can't remember who it was. I can't remember who it was, but he talked about when this was funny because he was like, I work out of my home. And people were like, what? Work at your home? Like, it was a different time. He was probably typewriting on a typewriter. But he said he got up in the morning, he put on a full suit, he got in his car, he drove around the block, he parked, and he came in a different entrance to sit at his desk. Because the idea of defining the spaces was mentally really important for him. And the parallel is, how does your kid take off their tie when they get home? What does that look like? And giving some time to sort of imagine that we do that because we are acknowledging that we are stepping into a different place.
That ritual is something that maybe you could add. I took a very woo-woo acting class in college where there was a sculpture in the front yard of the building, and our acting teacher encouraged us to sort of step through the sculpture on the way in the building so that we would be in the place to roll around on the floor and feel our feelings when we went into the acting class.
Yeah.
But he just imposed this 10-second ritual, and we all as college students took it totally seriously and behaved differently after we stepped through the sculpture. Maybe that would help a kid. Like, we are going to change into our relaxing sweatshirt. We are going to ring the chimes that mean now it's time to relax or something. That could be very helpful.
Also helpful at this point, meal, food, feed the bear, as we've often said. Mm-hmm. And this is something I was never amazing at. I mean, my sister-in-law would always, I remember her kids coming from school and there was always a beautiful snack tray. And I always felt bad that I wasn't better at this. But I mean, I said to my husband, we just celebrated our 18th wedding anniversary.
Wow.
And
congratulations.
Thank you. And I said to him early in our marriage, when I'm really in a bad mood, the chances are I need a snack or a nap. That's just me, you know? And that's kids too. Like, it's the iceberg. What's underneath this behavior? And I have found that when I skip the snack, they walk in the door and an hour later, it's chaos and tears. And then when you try to take the backpack out to look at it, I hate school. I don't understand this. I don't understand anything about it. Is that hunger? I would bet it is. It also might be tiredness, and what they need is to veg in front of a video game for an hour. But I think that transitional hour between home and school can make a big difference.
You know, teachers are so good at redirection. I get a lot of teacher content on Instagrams. There's some great teachers out there. And watching them give examples of how they calmly redirect a kid who's having a meltdown. I mean, they're more trained at it than some of us as parents. But I think sometimes it can feel like my kid is a nightmare after school and there's nothing to be done except wring your hands. But there is. You can have ritual. You can watch some of these videos and learn how to redirect calmly. And there are things you can do to get pay a little more attention to it instead of hope it goes away.
Absolutely. Another reason, here's a few more reasons for improved behavior at school, which we've talked about a lot of these. Structure and rules. We've got resource expenditure. That's the social battery. Social pressure. So this is the mask. The child might behave well to avoid social embarrassment or negative consequences. So a kid who will sit and chat with you for 3 hours about the intricacies of like the moons of, Saturn, they might have learned not to do that at school, that's kind of a turnoff for people at school. But all day they're like, all I want to do is talk about Saturn's moons. And so that's coming out too. That's part of the like restraint collapse. And then the other thing is teacher modeling, which I thought was interesting. Teachers can model appropriate social and academic behaviors. And because of peer pressures, children are more inclined to follow suit at home.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be negative, though. Like the teacher says, Miss Murphy, my first grade teacher, I can still smell her perfume. She had long, straight hair. Like, she was the most glamorous creature I'd ever encountered. And when she wanted me to sit on my carpet square, you better believe I was going to sit on that carpet square because I was in love with Miss Murphy. And moms and dads don't have that same unconditional adoration.
That's exactly right. If you are feeling bad that like, why does my kid behave for Mrs. Murphy and not for me? Mrs. Murphy, first of all, has an angelic teacher quality. Mrs. Murphy also has 20 other kids who are behaving and modeling what is expected in that room.
That's right.
And Mrs. Murphy only has them for 45 minutes. So like, or even if she has them all day, the structures are really different. And as you said in the beginning, when you see that emotional release at home, it is a sign that they feel safety and trust at home, right? That they can be themselves. That's a good thing, but it may not be the best for you.
Right. There's things you can do to help them feel better, right?
Yes.
And if they feel better and they feel like they can let down their guard in a more productive way, then you have an easier afternoon as their parent. But it isn't that they're not allowed to melt down when they come home. That's normal.
Absolutely.
Like, they're not bad kids. It's they're being normal. And then you can make it a little easier on you by making sure you have the animal crackers ready at the door.
The headline of all of this is there's no bad in it. It's like there are clear reasons why this happens. We talked on our parables episode about the empty boat, right? This is happening because I'm a bad person. I'm a bad parent. I'm not as good as Mrs. Murphy. It's not. The boat is empty. It is happening because this is absolutely built into the structure of everything that is happening with kids.
And I do think that sometimes the kid-to-kid peer pressure, it isn't always like, I'm going to steal your lunch money. It can be positive. I do think it is easier to know what you're supposed to do when 20 other kids are doing it.
Yep.
If you're a kid that has a harder time sitting still, but Carson's sitting there, so I guess I'm supposed to do that too. And it doesn't have to be stressful. It can just be, they're taking it in without thinking about it, I guess is what I'm saying.
And I think the moment of stepping off the bus or getting in the car at the end of the day is a moment that, looking back, I misplayed very often. So I'm asking you to learn from my mistakes. The first time you see a kid, I feel the ideal interaction is just handing them something to eat, basically. It's great to see you, period. You forget, like, when your kids are in elementary school, you miss them all day. Like, you're so excited to see their cute faces at 3 o'clock. and they've been away from you all day. What happened? Oh my gosh, how's it going? How's Mrs. Murphy? Did you have a good day? Oh my gosh, did they decide what play they're going to do? A kid is so not ready for that barrage at 2:55. And I will say it took me 10 years to learn this, and I'm still kind of working on it. I'm a chatter. I like to have a big chat. I've been home alone all day. And so we're coming at it from exactly opposite points of view. I'm finally getting to talk to somebody and they're like, literally get away from me, crazy lady.
I just went, my daughter's play. They had their Q to Q tech day. So you have like the weekend before the play, like a 8-10 hour rehearsal day, which I went to help out with. It's a lot of sitting around. It's a lot of, waiting to be used, whatever. And I came home and walked in and my husband was like, hey, how'd it go? And like wanted to talk to me. He'd been hanging out all day. He kind of had dinner, like kind of started, but like, let's get right into making dinner. And I was so crabby. And at least I recognized it in myself. Like, oh my God, I don't want to talk to you about how my day was. The day was kind of long and boring. And now I need to sit on the couch for a couple. I don't want to get right into making dinner and chit chatting the whole time. Anyway, I recognize that in myself so clearly as not this person's fault, but not really my fault either, that we have different needs for communication at this particular moment.
There you go. And I think I had this last night. I had a really difficult day yesterday. And my husband, trying to be helpful, was like, let's talk it through. And about 3 minutes into it, I was like, could you actually just leave me alone? I'm going to go to bed. Like, I don't want to talk it through. It's not that I have a dilemma that I'm trying to figure out. It's just that life came and kicked my butt 86 different ways today. And there's nothing for you to solve. And I don't want to process it. But that's a very late in life skill. I feel like I came to that skill 10 years ago, 10 years into an 18-year marriage. So we can't really expect our kids to have that language. But it's good for us to remember that feeling because our kids feel it too.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. We'll be back with some solutions for how to merge these two worlds.
At DSW, we ask the important questions, like, what shoes are you going to wear? Whether you're prepping for wedding season, festival season, or just planning the ultimate vacay, the right shoes can make or break an RSVP. So own the moment. You've got big plans, and we've got just the shoes. At the perfect price, of course. Get ready to get ready with Designer Shoe Warehouse. Head to your DSW store or dsw.com today and let us surprise you.
All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that, taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence, all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE.
And now, a timeline of 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. from the What Fresh Hell podcast. 5 p.m.
What time is it? It's got to be almost bedtime, right? Oh, sweet mother of Kansas, it's only 5 p.m.?
5:15 p.m.
I'm hungry. Can I have a snack?
No snacks. We are in the cone of dinner time and all snacking must cease. Okay, what is for dinner?
5:23 p.m.
Mom, don't forget, for English, I have to make an island at 1/16 scale that represents the plot of my favorite novel, and it's due by tomorrow, and I haven't started it yet.
No! Okay, I'm calling for a pizza.
5:34 p.m.
It must be time for bed for you, huh? Okay. Oh, no, it's only 5:34. You, find some Harry Potter Legos to start gluing to this poster board.
5:52 p.m.
Okay, the pizza's here. Everyone grab a slice, but whatever you do, don't stop doing your homework.
6:15 p.m.
How's the island project coming along? What do you mean you haven't started yet?
7:52 p.m.
Anything that's not done is not getting done, folks. I'm putting the baby down. Let's wrap this thing up, people.
8 p.m.
Everybody grab a screen or two and go to bed. Mama is done for the night.
This has been a timeline of 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. from the What Fresh Hell podcast.
Okay, we're back, Amy. So we either have a kid who is doing great at school and having behavior trouble at home, or doing fine at home and having behavior trouble at school. We know why these might be happening in these different environments from the things we've talked about. And now we're going to talk about some solutions.
Okay.
Our biggest solution, get curious about what's happening. Set up a meeting with your child's teacher and compare notes. This can be really helpful. Also, I mean, I've had the experience of, I don't know why, but in the last 6 weeks, my child is a nightmare at home. They're grouchy. They're crying a lot. I don't know what's going on. They're driving me crazy. And the teacher sometimes has a pretty simple insight. Oh, I did notice that her friends are sitting at a different lunch table and she's not included in that. It may be something that your kid hasn't been comfortable sharing, but here's another crazy thing. Your kid may not realize that's what's bothering them. And that, I think, is super interesting. I've talked about before that we had a death at my child's elementary school that was extremely, extremely tragic. And knowing that that had happened, it was very interesting to see how the kids expressed their grief and trauma about it, because it's not like they come home and they say, you know, I'm feeling really afraid because this happened. I'm feeling really sad because this happened. They come home and they don't want the dinner you prepared and they tell you you're stupid. And you're like, wait, what? Where is this coming from? But in that case, I was very clear that there had been an inciting event. So I saw all the behavior as an expression, as a reaction to this event.
Yeah.
But sometimes you don't know. That's obviously a huge event. But lots of times those things are happening at school, but you don't know about them.
You're the last one. You're the last one that your kid is going to tell that so-and-so said, not only do I not like you, nobody in the class would like you because XYZ, that happened to your kid at school today. You will be the last to know.
I'm going to be gendered and say, I find this more so with my boys. I feel like my girl is like, dun, 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 here's the news report. And like, I get everything more than I want. But at some point, I had heard that a teacher at my children's elementary school had like broken an arm or a leg in a fall at the school. I can't remember if it was my child's teacher, and had to be taken by ambulance out of the school. I found this out 6 months later, and I went to my boys and I was like, did your teacher break her leg in school? Oh, yeah. Never mentioned it. Didn't seem like a news headline. And so I think getting curious, this doesn't mean becoming me and greeting them with like, tell me what happened at school today. Did anyone break their leg? Did anything weird happen? They're also in 2025 doing active shooter drills 2 or 3 times a quarter. They're dealing with, you know, we just recently had a misunderstanding at the school that led to a lockout where they were locked inside the school for several hours. These things have become part of the fabric of our lives, but they're not the fabric for the kids. Hiding under your desk for 10 minutes is mentally very hard on a child.
Oh, gosh. I mean, that was after my time being in my kids' classrooms, and all the grown-ups around you presented as calm and regular and normal. It's none of those things, right? And so they shouldn't not do that. It's more reassuring to have the adults do that, but there must be a mismatch. I'm like, this is stressful and not okay. And I'm imagining why would be a real situation.
Yeah. And there's what is it called when you like integrate something into your psyche, basically? That, okay, when this first started happening, Columbine and Sandy Hook, it was so like shocking. And now it has become kind of integrated into our psyches. I don't know. I couldn't say, like, does that mean it's not as bad for kids or worse for kids? But there's a lot going on at school that we are just seeing random behaviors from, and we need to get curious about what's going on. and the source of information may not be your kid. You may have to go to the school counselor, the teacher. And also they may have people they feel more comfortable talking to about certain things than you.
It seems like this is of course, it's a useful tactic, but it's secondarily useful because it gets you off like, why is my kid like this? Why doesn't my kid behave? Why am I such a terrible parent? To instead focus on, something must have happened at school today. I wonder what it was.
I wonder what it was. And you can't rely on your child to make those connections, right? Like kids who might be reading, let's say, a book about the Holocaust at school, and they're learning about it for the first time. They're not going to really come home when they're in 6th grade and be like, learning about this horrible atrocity has made me feel kind of unsure about humankind. And I'm feeling very agitated by that. They're not going to make that connection, but they might be showing behaviors. And so I think even if you can't always define the source, so you may never know, like, oh, they didn't eat dinner that night well because someone said something mean to them in the line. You don't have to be a detective who connects all the dots.
Right.
You just have to be really curious about behavior as opposed to, you have to approach behavior as communication fundamentally. When I say you, I mean all of us. And I was terrible at this. I was like, just eat your dinner. No one cares. Like, believe me, I wasn't sitting there being like, let me get curious as you punch your sister about what's underneath this all. But as it becomes a bigger problem, you need a bigger solution.
Right. If it's more sort of garden variety, you don't need to know what's underpinning it. Knowing that there might be something underpinning it that you don't fully understand will make you be able to be more calm and effective and not escalate it further.
Another note that I thought was really helpful, and I have dealt with this myself, collaborate with your child's team. So there is a tendency for this to become adversarial because it sounds sometimes like the teacher is saying, this is a you problem. They behave fine here. They're bad at home. That's you. It becomes adversarial very quickly. I had a situation with somebody who was supporting one of my kids who I found very difficult, came on really strong to me. And the first meeting, I was extremely reactive. And I got on the other side of the net and I was like, let's duke this thing out. And I came home and I calmed down. And I will say I talked to my mom, who was very good at talking me down. And she was like, you have to convince that person that they're the best teacher in the world and that they are the solution, because fighting with them is not going to get you there. And I took a deep breath and I went back and I took the point of view of, how can we help this situation? You are obviously a very trained teacher. Like, I turned to you for solutions. Now, in doing so, I ended up getting what I wanted. I wasn't actually like, I abdicate everything because you are so smart. But this Child Mind article suggests, and I think we sometimes forget, praise the teacher and then suggest how you can work together. Mm-hmm. The less it can be adversarial. Sometimes people are oil and water. And sometimes people, if you think a teacher is damaging your kid, meet with the principal, change classes, obviously. But for generic kind of run of the mill, this is not my favorite person on earth, I think putting the child first is a good idea.
And I also think going the other way, if your kid is going through something difficult at home, the death of a grandparent, the parents are getting divorced, whatever it is, that the older sibling has left home for the first time, that giving the teacher a little more information.
Yes.
The teachers want to be there. They want to take good care of our kids. They love our kids. And for them to know, like, oh, they have been staying up more lately because their brother's in the hospital. Like that's just really good information to give the teacher, so that then at school, when the kid is all of a sudden going haywire about something about crayons, they'll know why.
This collaboration, for the record, could be once a year. It could be once a semester. It doesn't mean that you're meeting with the teacher every single day and you guys are really partnering on this. Please don't meet with the teacher every single day. They don't have the bandwidth to do that.
Can you imagine?
I can imagine. I can imagine. And I'm sure the teachers listening can also imagine.
I think it would be great if we just had daily catch-ups.
One other tip that I really liked from this Child Mind piece was when, then statements. For kids, especially younger kids or kids on the spectrum, ADHD, when you do this, then this will happen. And so really explaining and getting into, for kids who the like unexpected and the transitions are a big deal, then having this conversation of when this happens, then this will happen, and visual schedules, and trying to give them ideas at school for you can actually have some control over this environment by knowing what to expect all day. I think can be really, really helpful for kids.
And that's positive too. Like when you sit nicely during story time or whatever, then, you know, I don't know what, but that it's not like when you misbehave, then you don't get snack. It's when you do this good thing, then this good thing will happen.
Right. And even just small things of like when you put your food in the cubby, it will be safe there. Then at 11:30, you will get it and be able to eat it. That everything has some reason behind it. And it's not just this random bell ringing and then someone's handing you a sandwich. Like help them to really understand the environment. And that can also be helpful at home, I think. Their final piece of advice is your after school restraint collapse. It's absolutely okay to have less stringent demands during the period of time when your child gets home from school. They need a break. That said, it's important for them to understand that the rules of the household still need to be followed. This is Stephanie Lee, a clinical psychologist. So you can come home and watch video games for an hour. You can come home and lay on the floor while eating chips for an hour. It's pretty much airplane rules for that 1 hour. Like whatever you need, you can do as long as it is within the rules of the household. So you can't be rude to me. You can't hit your sister. You can't throw things on the floor because you're mad. You can't rip up your homework because you don't understand it. You have to behave the rules, but I also understand you need a break and we're going to carve that out.
Clear expectations.
Yeah. Because kids' boundary-seeking behavior, as my mom used to say, they kind of want to know that it's not a free-for-all at home. They want to know that like there are guardrails and there are walls, but that within those walls, they can be themselves.
Your love and boundaries is like those stretchy sleep things I keep seeing on Instagram that you get your kid like a caterpillar pod thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of want one. You are that. You're providing the like, yeah, you're home now and you're going to be held snugly between the couch and the television eating your chips. You're good. You're all good.
Exactly. We got you.
So we solved it, except there's nothing to solve. It isn't that you have to fix that there's a difference between home and school. It's that you need to understand why when you can, and then use what you learn in the other place to help the other place.
Solved it, Amy.
Do you ever wonder what Margaret and I talk about when we aren't talking about parenting? Then you need to sign up for What Fresh Hell Plus. It's our subscription program where we do once a month a bonus episode on something definitely not parenting related and sometimes incredibly silly. You also get access to our entire catalog of 1,000 episodes at this point. We've been doing this show for 9 years. Our entire catalog, completely ad-free. Sign up for What Fresh Hell Plus in the link in this episode or on our website, whatfreshhellpodcast.com.
And with that, we will talk to you next time. Thanks so much for listening.
Thanks, everybody.